He is the 7-time James Beard nominee for Restaurateur of the Year. He is the Richard Melman Innovator of the Year in the restaurant category. And he's also named to the Restaurant News Power 50. So please join me in welcoming the CEO and founder of Fox Restaurant Concepts, Sam Fox.
Thanks. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Well, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that I'm making a lot more money in the restaurant business, says Margot. I'm sorry, says Sarah. The bad news is that Margot says my wife is spending it all on online shopping. So I'm in a little bit of trouble. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the unglamorous life of the restaurant business. I'm going to share with you a little insight into my organization, our company, some of the things that make us successful, and just kind of giving some tidbits, and then share with you all of our brands. My marketing team came to me and they said, what do you want to do for our presentation? And we talked about a lot of things of what we wanted to do or what we didn't want to do. And you know, I always said that everyone thinks the restaurant business is so easy and everyone wants to be in the restaurant business. Let's talk a little bit about sort of the hard work, what's made us who we are, and then I'll share with you some of the things that sort of have gone hard for me along the way. She also said, I think we need to have a video. Everyone's going to have this video. And I'm like, well, we don't have a video. What are we going to do? She goes, well, let me get back to you. So she calls me up about a week later, and she goes, okay, I got the video. We're going to set it all up. And she said, it's going to cost us $10,000. I said, $10,000 for a video? So I'm going to play a short video. Really enjoy it, because it cost me $10,000. Thank you.
Creating experiences for people really makes me smile. It's how you feel when you walk into a Fox restaurant. A guest can touch and taste all those little details. I love design. It's a personal passion, just like food and just like hospitality. It's an important fabric of what the story is and how people relate to what's going on in the space. We have almost 50 restaurants and none of them look the same. We're using new layouts, new equipment, lighting, sustainable woods. All the design that we're working on is just trying to make it more of an organic experience. And really, I think that's one of the strengths of who we are. Sometimes you talk about that it factor and how do you describe that, and sometimes you can't. You know, I believe our organization and the people working here, they have that it factor. We set the bar very high for ourselves, probably higher than most our guests expect. My job is to push on that bar every single day and keep raising it a little bit. I believe the experience is the brand. We're trying to create something that hasn't been done before. New flavors, great hospitality, great design. That's one of the reasons that we're successful, is because of all those little things, all those thoughts that go into creating that experience for the guests.
What do you guys think? Pretty good? Thanks. I told Anita, I hope we can get some mileage. We can play that about 10 times over the next sort of 2 or 3 years. So anyway, here we go. So this was me last week. This was my 4th cheeseburger before 12 o'clock. You guys think it's fun being a restaurateur, having 42 different restaurants, and we have 6 different menus in every single one of our restaurants. We change our food, our menu 4 times a year. Think about, add that up. I taste every single item that goes on the menu, and it usually takes us about 10 times to get an item on the menu. So it's, there's a lot of working out that I have to do along the way. So a little bit about our company. We have 44 restaurants. We have 15 different concepts. We're in 8 states. Over the next 3 years, we're going to open up about 30 restaurants across the country. We started here in Tucson, which I'm really proud of. I went to the University of Arizona. So thank you. I grew up here, and it's always great to come back here. I live in Phoenix now, and so It's a pleasure being here today. I also worked in this hotel when I was about 17, 18 years old. I worked in the restaurant down in the lobby. So if you need to know where any of the restrooms are in the building, I can tell you where they are. So we have about 4,000 employees. We have 80 in our corporate office, and we have some really great growth plans that we're really, really proud of. Talk a little bit about some of our business practices. Success is in the details. So each restaurant concept is unique and different to itself. We never go in and say that we want to create something for the sake of creating something. It has to happen more organically for us. And all the things that go into those details, from the music to the sound to the lighting to the fabric to the food to the chef who we hire to the management team we put in place, it's all thoughtful of what we do, and we really take our time and really make sure that we're paying attention to the details. Everyone says, is it the design? Is it the food? Is it the ambiance? And my answer to that is always yes. It's all those, and then the 10,000 other little details that makes us work on a daily basis. Innovation can happen anywhere. As I mentioned, I grew up here in Tucson. I opened my first restaurant here when I was 21. And we've grown some great brands from Arizona. One of some that we're very proud of is True Food Kitchen. It's a partnership we have with Dr. Andrew Weil, who's another University of Arizona staff member. And latest concept is Flower Child, which we feel like we're innovating in the healthy food category. Talk a little bit about our growth, growing a brand. As I mentioned before, we don't just grow a brand to say that we want to open 20 or 30 or something. For us, our goal is always open up one great restaurant at a time. And we are really thoughtful about that and having an organic experience of how that happens. So it's not like we put on a chart and say we can open 5, 10, 20, or 30 of these. It's let's just open one great restaurant. Let's cultivate that restaurant, and let's see what happens. And if the consumer demands that we do more, and we feel like it's a great business model to move forward, then we move on to store 2 and store 3, but we never try and get too far ahead of ourselves. Create your own opportunity. You know, we have so many people in our organization today that I hired about the last 17 years that are now helping run our organization. Great leaders. I remember we've had 2 or 3 people that I started out as waiters and waitresses now in our corporate office that have big jobs that are running the hospitality side of things, the wine program, the food program. We have a lot of people that are doing some real estate that have just grown up throughout the organization. So it's been a really great run for a lot of those people. You know, early on in my career, I grew up in the restaurant business. I'm a 3rd-generation restaurateur, and my parents moved here from Chicago when I was 5 years old. And I grew up going to the restaurants every single day, and I'd get dropped off from school. I would study all my books, my homework assignments at my parents' restaurant. And then, you know, when I was done with that, I'd work in the restaurant. I'd wait tables, I'd wash dishes. I did all that. And so when I was getting ready to go to school here, I grew up here, like I said, went to the U of A, and my parents said, hey, whatever you do, we don't want you to go into the restaurant business. And I said, well, that's really all I really know. And so I picked a degree of real estate finance. And I remember it was my 2nd year at here, and I was studying real estate finance, and my parents moved away to Florida. And I took a summer job as an intern at a real estate firm here in town. And it was not a fun job. I didn't enjoy it. You know, you interact with people, but it was a lot of clerical work, a lot of running around. And like I said, I was a 19-year-old, 20-year-old college student. And I'd have to go get lunch for everybody and do all these things that I didn't feel like pertained to the job at all. And so one day, my mentor, the gentleman I was working for, asked me to go to his house and help his wife with something. So drove over to his house, and it was July when that was going on in Tucson. And for all of you that have been here in July, it's not really very cool here. And so she said, hey, I have a problem. I have a flat tire, and I need you to help me change the tire on my car. And I said, okay, I'll help you change your tire on the car. And so I walked out. It was probably about 140 degrees on the asphalt where that car was. I had my tie on, my khakis. I was a little preppy college kid. And it took me about an hour to change the tire. And I'm not very mechanically inclined. So after that hour, I got up. I looked down. My clothes are ruined. I got in my car. I didn't get a thank you. I drove back to the real estate office, and I told the guy, I said, I quit. And I quit. And then I was driving away, and I said, now what am I going to do? And what I said to myself was I was never going to work for anybody ever in my life. I'm going to work for myself. And so I dropped out of college at 21. At 20, I dropped out of college. Took that money that my parents didn't know that I even dropped out of college, got a refund, borrowed some money from some family friends, and then opened my first restaurant here in Tucson in 1992 on Campbell and River called Gilligan's Bar and Grill, and I've never worked for anyone since then. Don't ever change your need to change. Change is essential. I hate the rule, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I drive my team crazy every single day. I heard Terry talking earlier. Hi, Terry. Cute Terry. Terry was talking earlier about how he's always challenges his team to change, and we do that in our organization every single day. And you know, there's so many things that are moving so fast in our world, as all the presentations have presented us today, that you know, in this business, if you're not evolving, if you're not changing, if you're not looking at something different from how you train your staff, how you curate your food, how you do your design, all those things, then you're really sort of standing still. And we struggle a little bit with that in our organization because we have brands and we have restaurants that people go to for a certain reason. Maybe it's the Salmon Galette at Wildflower, and they've been going there for 17 years to have that one item. And so we always say, how are we going to keep the old guests and continue to grow new guests? So we look at that all the time, and change is something that I think is really, really important in our business. Since feeling is first, design the mood. You know, we just developed a new concept. It's called Flower Child. I'm very, very proud of it. And when we were talking about what it is, and it's a healthy, fast, casual restaurant. It's piggybacks a little bit on what we learned at True Food. It's fast casual, and we talked earlier about how busy fast casual is, and so we feel like we're right in the wheelhouse of that segment. And you know, when we said, hey, we want to do something healthy, we want to do something fast, we want to do something casual, we want to do something that people can go to every single day. And so I spent probably about a year thinking about it. And at the end of that, I came up with one word of how we were going to build our restaurant. And the one word was happy. I wanted everyone to feel happy when they came there. I wanted you to feel happy when you left, when you paid the bill. I wanted you to feel happy when you ate the food, what the food does to you. We really follow the Mediterranean Asian diet. It's got very low glycemic load on all of the food. There's all healthy fats in the restaurant. So how the food affected you and how you felt throughout the day was really, really something important. So we built a whole restaurant based on one word of happy, and we're proud to say that we're about to open our second store, and we're going to be opening about 4 or 5 of those over the next 12, 18 months. Hiring is casting, curating, and caring. You know, we aspire to be a brand that people want to work for. And we talk about that a lot, of who wants to be here and why do they want to work here. And we always say, if you want to be in the hospitality business, if you want to work in the restaurant business, and you're a great person, we want you to work for us. So that's really, really important that we act that way as well, that people want to work for us. So it's something that we talk a lot about with our team, of how are we going to attract like-minded people, have the same philosophy. So we talk a lot about our culture, and we talk a lot about our people, and all those things that want people to attract to us. Hospitality rules. Oh, sorry. We have a mantra, yes is the answer, what is the question? We say that all the time. You know, what is the question that is really the core of our organization's culture? Hospitality and service is above anything else. I truly believe this is what separates us from everyone else. We really, really take it very seriously that people choose to spend money in our stores. And we're fortunate enough that we're small enough but big enough that we don't really build restaurants for the bottom line. Those things seem to take care of themselves. We build restaurants where people want to come, enjoy spending their money, you know, we have a lot of people that spend a lot of their holidays with us. They spend their birthdays or anniversaries, special occasions, business meetings, and so we feel like we have a great obligation to our guests coming into our stores, and we take that very, very seriously in our organization, that people choose to spend money with us. Serve another purpose. This is something that, as growing up here in Tucson, we got involved really early with the Boys and Girls Club, and as we've grown our organization outside of Tucson into other cities, we felt it's really, really important that we get back to the community, and we're part of the fabric of the communities that we're in. And so we've taken some initiatives of some big initiatives with Boys and Girls Club, the Heart Association in Phoenix, and as we go into new markets, we really sort of seek out those like-minded partners and have the same values for us. Yesterday it was Earth Day, and we had a big promotion at Flower Child and at True Food. And so yesterday we invited 3 charities to come in to Flower Child, talk a little bit about their charities, and then people could vote for where they wanted their dollars to go. And we gave away 100% of our proceeds yesterday, not our profits, of our top line proceeds yesterday to those 3 charities. And so really great way to give to our community. Thank you. But you know, being in the restaurant and growing up in the restaurant, what also really is important to us is we get a lot of kids, or we get a lot of moms, or we get people coming in. And I remember being in the restaurant last month, and a little kid came in his baseball outfit, and he said, "Hey, can I get a $25 gift card for my team's raffle so we can buy some equipment for our team?" And so last year we gave out over 3,000 $25 gift cards. It drives my team crazy, and the paperwork that's involved in giving out those many transactions at such a small level. But we feel it's so important, even on that low level, to connect with who's using our restaurants and the local people in our community. Love what you do. I believe that everyone should work in a restaurant at some point in their life. It provides real life lessons in the real world. So I'm going to share with you one of my unglamorous times in the restaurant business. I'd opened up my first restaurant in Tucson, like I said, in 1992, and I was interviewing for a chef, and I don't even think I was interviewing for a chef. I think I was interviewing for a cook, someone at the time that was going to actually cook the food that we were opening. And I had a little sports bar, and you know, like I said, I grew up in the business, and I thought I knew everything about the restaurant business. And I really realized early on that there was a lot more to the business aspect of things as far as running a business than just sort of taking someone's order, clearing the table, washing dishes. And so those early years were very, very hard on me as a person, but those 3 years that I had my first restaurant, I never made any money, and we didn't have a lot of money to open up that restaurant. But that was probably the best learning experience that I've ever had, and it's really the foundation for who I am today and how I run my organization. So I was interviewing for a cook position, and the gentleman came in and applied, and it turned out that this guy was driving from New York to LA, and he worked at a really fancy restaurant in New York, and he was an Italian chef. And he said, "I want to spend 6 months here during the winter months, and I'd love to be your chef, and then I'm going to move on." And so hired the gentleman. We opened up the restaurant. He helped me write the menu. There was words on there in the beginning that I didn't even know what they meant as far as some of the food items that we had. And we were just sort of oil and water in the beginning. We didn't get along very well. And I was working the front of the house. I was working the back of the house. I was doing a lot of the work, and he was cooking 7 days a week, and I could barely afford to pay him, and couldn't afford to pay myself. And him and I got in a big argument one day. And we literally got in a fist fight in the kitchen. And in the middle of that fist fight, he broke his hand. And he shattered his hand in a lot of places. I don't think I had health insurance at the time for anybody. And so he had to go to the hospital. He had to set his hand. And I looked at him and I go, "Now what are we going to, who's going to cook?" And he said, "You're going to cook." And so for 6 months, he sat on a stool in the kitchen, and I was his hands. And that was my early on experience of really learning a lot about food. I don't consider myself a chef, but I know a lot about food, and those early days was really a great experience for me to be able to grow my organization and interact with all the chefs who work for me today. All right, 15 restaurants, 15 lessons learned. So I'm going to talk a little bit about all of our brands and just kind of give you a snippet of what each restaurant means to me or what's something that we're proud of. So here we are, Flower Child. And the biggest surprise for me at Flower Child has been the insight into the to-go business. People want to bring healthy home. Is the gentleman from Whole Foods here? The CEO of Whole Foods, is he here today? He's here tomorrow, right? So Whole Foods has been trying to kick all our restaurants' ass over the last couple of years in the prepared food business. And so when we talked a lot about it, we want to compete with Whole Foods, and you hear Whole Foods wanting to compete with restaurants. To me, Whole Foods has turned into a restaurant. You walk in there and they do a great job. It's beautifully displayed. The food's great. It's ready to go. And so one of the things that surprised us the most at Flower Child was the to-go business and how it gets used by so many different people. And we have people that come there 4, 5, 6 nights a week. It's really, really interesting to see how we're competing. And we're going to go next to a Whole Foods pretty soon, and we'll see how we stack up. The Henry. The Henry was a restaurant that we opened a couple years ago. We were in an office at Scottsdale Waterfront above one of our restaurants, Sauce, and we were in 5,000 feet, and we had to move out of that office. We were outgrowing that office, and with that, I was searching for some new office space around Phoenix. And I found this great, great building. It was 24,000 feet. And we were going to go from 5,000 to 24,000, which we did not need. And I told my partners, I said, hey, we're going to move into this big office building. I'm going to build a restaurant there. And they said, you want a restaurant in the office? And I said, I do. And they said, well, that's going to cost us a lot of money, and it's just not going to work. And this is my partners, meaning my CFO, who's my brother-in-law. And so he doesn't really get a vote half the time. So him and I are arguing about money all the time. And so we wind up moving to this office building at 24th and Camelback. I'm sorry, at 44th and Camelback. And we moved in. We did offices. It's 2 levels. We took 12,000 feet upstairs, created our offices, and we built a restaurant downstairs. We had to get it rezoned. So it took us a year later. And it was one of the most important things that I've done over the last couple of years as far as evolving the company, evolving the organization. So we built a restaurant. We thought we'd do about $4 million in revenue. The restaurant did $8 million last year. It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And what's great about it, and it's also a little bit of a curse, but what's great about it is that I'm in that restaurant every single day because I have to walk through that restaurant to get to my office. So I see my guests, I see my employees, I see all the food, I see all the design, and I see how it gets used every single day. And people stop me and they say great things. People stop me and say, you know, the soup's cold, you know, whatever that is. But I get to interact and I'm never losing connection to what's going on in my brands. And so we have some partners that own some other big restaurant companies, and I go to their offices, and they feel so removed from what their restaurants are every single day. So one of the best things I think we've done for our organization is that we stay attached to what we do every single day. True Food Kitchen. We feel like we're creating the healthy dining category, and we remain a leader in this expanding industry. You know, healthy has been a taboo word for such a long time, and in the last sort of 6, 7, 8 years, you see the trend going there. And early on, as we said, we partnered with Dr. Andrew Weil. Andy and I sat down and we talked about doing a restaurant together, and we opened up our first one about 7 years ago at the Biltmore in Phoenix, and we had 1 store. And the restaurant really took a while. It took us about a year to really figure out exactly what we had. But we knew instantly that people would come in and we would see people eating there 5, 6, 7 days in a row. And I never felt that in any of my restaurants where we had such repeat guests. And then another phenomenon that happened in the restaurant was the employees that were there. We had the lowest turnover of any brand that we had. They were like-minded, and it was really a great experience. So True Food today, we have 10 units. We're going to open up about 15 over the next 2 years. We're leading our growth. We're in Fairfax, Virginia, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas. We're opening in Austin this summer, and we're opening in Manhattan Beach. We have 3 units in California, and we have a couple units here in Arizona, and we have 1 in Denver. And we're building in Chicago, Boston. We're looking in Miami, and we feel like True Food is going to be the national leader in healthy dining. Raise your hand if you've been to True Food in the room.
When's it coming to Tucson?
No questions yet. No questions yet, all right? So hopefully all of you agree with me. Zinburger. Zinburger is quality will help you rise above. There's a lot of competition in the burger space, but if you don't compromise quality, you end up winning. And so Zinburger is another Tucson story. We had a restaurant here called Bistro Zin, which was a French bistro. And we had it for about 5 or 6 years, and it was doing okay, but it wasn't really growing, and the economy was tanking, and it was our highest check average restaurant in Tucson. It made me nervous. We had a $60 check average. And so I decided that I was going to change it into a burger concept. And so that's where the name Burger and Wine Concept, and so that's where the name Zinburger came from. And so we opened up in 2007, and we've grown the brand to 5 in Arizona. And in the last 2 years, we've sold the East Coast rights to a development partner of ours who's got 12 on the East Coast and is going to open another 12 over the next 24 months. So we took what was a good restaurant that we really loved and liked a lot, but wasn't really working financially, and we sort of reconverted it into a burger concept, and today it's a great brand, and we're really proud of that. Little Cleo's. Little Cleo's is our dinner-only seafood restaurant. It's at the Yard in Phoenix. It's open 6 nights a week. It has the highest check average in our organization. I also feel like it has the best food in the organization. We have oysters. We have fresh fish flown in every single day. The chef has a lot of leeway in all the specials, and it's got about a 40-seat restaurant. So it's really small. It's intimate. It's got a great vibe. And a lot of people were saying, well, you can't do seafood in Arizona, and we're proving them wrong. Where am I at here? Blanco. This was sort of something that, growing up here, I always went to the mom and pop Mexican restaurants around town, and living in Phoenix, the same thing. And, I realized that, there was a need and an audience for a little bit more upscale Mexican food, kind of what P.F. Chang's did for Chinese food. And so we have now 4 of those. One's at the airport in Phoenix, and it's been a great brand, but it took us a long time to say, hey, maybe we should open a Mexican restaurant, and we're really glad we did. North. There's North in Tucson for some of you guys who are visiting. It's right up the corner around there. Please visit us. So North, we just opened our 8th North, and it was our first one in 4 years. And we're in 6 different states with North. It's an Italian restaurant, and we've had one in Kierland Commons was the first one. We've grown the brand, and then about 4 years ago, I decided to change what was working in the brand. This is where that goes to like keep changing everything or you're not going to move forward. And I blew up what North was. North was a center of a plate, special occasion, $40 dinner check average. And I felt like that wasn't really where we really wanted to be if we were going to grow the brand. So we really put in a great pasta program, pizza program. We wanted more visits from our guests on a daily basis. And we really struggled with the old and the new. So for about a year, we had declining sales in the brand because we were sort of eliminating some old guests and we're trying to grow our new guests. And so we struggled with that, but we kept doing what we thought was right, kept working on it. And over the last 3 years, North has had double-digit growth. Last year, we had 17% store comps on a brand that's 13 years old with a store we haven't opened in 4 years. So we just opened in Houston 3 weeks ago. Now that it's the number 2 store in the brand as far as sales per week. Our busiest one actually happens to be in Austin, Texas, where we have no presence. So it's been really exciting to see that we open restaurants in cities that people don't know who we are, that we're doing really well. And we're going to now open 5 of those over the next couple of years. Our next one's going to open July 30th in Manhattan Beach, and then we'll be in Irvine, Newport Beach sometime in 3rd, 4th quarter as well. So North has been something we're really excited again about. The Rocket. Well, the Rocket is, we wanted to get into the food truck business. And not in the business, we just wanted to do a food truck. And so and I'll tell you why it's not a business. The trend was going on, a lot of food trucks. We'd go to all the food festivals. We felt like we were being left out of the party a little bit. And so I went to one of my chef partners and I said, hey, I'm going to give you a little budget. You're kind of a motorhead. Go build me a great food truck. And so he came back about a year later, delivered the truck, and I looked at it, cost us $375,000 to build this truck. And so the truck has never made money. I don't think we'll ever get our return on investment. But what it does is gives us the opportunity to do something we love. And so we've used the food truck. We're not on the street trying to make a living in the food truck business. We use it for community events, charities. We give it a lot away to schools and to sporting teams and stuff like that for their parties. And, a lot of special events. And it's just been a lot of fun. When that truck pulls up, see the look on people's face. It's really a over-the-top experience that we've created. Olive and Ivy. Olive and Ivy is probably, I would say, our most successful restaurant in Scottsdale or in Phoenix. And it's been there since 2006. This is one of those brands that is just growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. And it's just the same store sales comps are amazing in this brand. It's California Mediterranean. It's got a lively bar scene. What I feel is the best patio in Arizona. We have a great morning component as well. And this is one of those restaurants where we struggle to evolve the menu a little bit because we have so many people that come there for their favorites. So Juby Chew and the Showcase Room. And so this is a little bit of how to extend your brand. Chew Food, Juby Chew stands for Juice by True. And so we created a character named Juby, and that was the fresh juice that we've created. And so we were expanding True Food at the Scottsdale Quarter, and we had about 300 square feet of extra space. And so we decided to open up a little juice bar. And once again, we came up with this character and what it was. So it's 100% organic, fresh, cold-pressed juice. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with juicing lately. It's such a hot trend. And the business has grown that we now are in a standalone location on Camelback, and we sell to all of our other True Foods, and it's become a real good business. And then the Showcase Room is part of Culinary Dropout, which I haven't talked about yet, but I will. And this was the case of growing Culinary Dropout into a really unique building, and we had about 7,000 extra feet of space that we didn't know what we wanted to do. So we built basically a banquet hall, private dining facility, and it's a new business that we're learning a lot. We can do sit-down dinners or lunches for up to 250 people, so it's been a lot of fun. Wildflower, original one here in Tucson, opened in 1998. It really set the standard for who we are as an organization. We always defer to some of the early days. We've remodeled the restaurant 4 or 5 times. Every time we've remodeled, we spent more than the original restaurant cost to open. I don't know if I'm proud of that or just we're really good at spending money. But it really grounds us, remember where we came from, why we are here today. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of people in the organization, I hired them in that restaurant who are helping run the organization. So it's always good to remember your roots. The Arrogant Butcher. This was an interesting play on our part. We got asked to open a restaurant in downtown Phoenix, and if any of you have been to downtown Phoenix, there's not really a lively, great dining scene. Chris Bianco's down there with Pizzeria Bianco, who does an amazing job, great restaurant. If you get a chance, go eat there. They just opened one in Tucson, as a matter of fact. And what we felt like downtown Phoenix was missing was a gathering place where politicians, lawyers, CPAs, we got all the baseball and basketball teams down there, where people were meeting and gathering. And so when we built that restaurant, our goal was really to build a restaurant that was an iconic downtown restaurant that felt like it'd been there for 30 years. And we built this great corner bar that you'd see in some major cities. And it's really become a great, great restaurant. We're really proud of that. Culinary Dropout. Culinary Dropout was started by, we just had come off opening up a big steakhouse that cost us about $7 million to open. And it was super, super expensive. And we had an opening budget of $800,000. And that was pre-opening what it cost to open the restaurant. And I remember opening Wildflower here in Tucson, and it cost me about $300,000 to open. I said, how can we have an $800,000 opening budget? That's more than double what our first whole restaurant cost to open. And so I found a space across from where we were at. The restaurant had gone out of business. And I said, let's go prove to our organization that we can open up a restaurant and spend the least amount of money as possible. And so we came up with the name Culinary Dropout. So it was a little bit of play on what it is. And it's a chef-driven gastropub. And my take on that, it's basically a bar with great food, with a great chef. And so we have this big manual of all these rules and procedures and training, and we're coming off a 14-day training period and all these things, managers in place, and all these things that go into place for opening a restaurant. So I said, we're not going to have the training manual, we're not going to have uniforms, we're not going to have any rules, and we're going to just sort of, the menus are going to be printed in black and white, not color. We just did everything we could to spend the least amount of money. And it was really a great lesson for us and to prove to ourselves that we could do that. And today, we've just opened our 4th one. The brand has grown into another concept called The Yard. And so we have a big outdoor game area. And so we have 1 in Vegas, we have 2 in Phoenix, 3 in Phoenix, and we're building 1 in Austin as well. So it was really a great lesson for organization to learn how to sort of pay attention to money. The Greenhouse. The Greenhouse has been inspired by my travels. I spent a lot of time in California. I'm an architect buff, and there was the Green and Green brothers who had the arts and crafts movement early and beginning of the century in California. And so I built a restaurant based on everything California. They had Levi's as the jeans. We had shirts made from California. All the wine list was all California. All the produce and all the food was inspired from California. Sauce, Pizza, and Wine. It says know when to let go on the bottom there. So Sauce has been open since 2003. We sold the Sauce brand at the end of 2014. So we had 9 units. It's a great brand. We feel like we were early on in fast casual, and it's been growing and growing and growing. It's just something that we weren't looking to continue to grow, and so we felt like it should have been bigger than it is. And so we sold it to a partner who has great aspirations of growing the brand. So. Well, thank you. I'm going to share with you one more embarrassing story about the unglamorous life of the restaurant business before I'll take a few questions. And so I was going to New York with my chef team. This was probably about 4 years ago. And I was working on a deal, believe it or not, at Culinary Dropout in Las Vegas with a gal up there named Elizabeth Blau, and she curated all the restaurants for Steve Wynn at the Wynn Hotel and the Bellagio. And so we were working on, she was doing some consulting for the Hard Rock. And I was telling her I was going to New York, and she said, well, you got to go to the Dutch. This brand new restaurant that opened up, famous chef, and my chef team had heard about it. I said, okay, great. And she calls up, because I got your reservation. She goes, guy, and the girl knew who you were, and she said she follows your restaurants, and she was excited to see you there. So just fly out to New York. I have my whole team. We're doing this little tour. We go to Italy. We go to all these great restaurants. And I tell my team, hey guys, I got a reservation at the hottest restaurant in town. It's called the Dutch, and they're like, wow, that's going to be great. We're going to go there. And so I had 9 of us. My wife was with me and a couple other people there. We were just having a great time. And so we walk in, place is kind of clearing out. It's kind of the end of the night. And we go in there, and there's this great front room, and we're having drinks and just enjoying some appetizers. I said, and the place is empty, clearing out. And I'm like, it's going to be about 20 more minutes for your table. And so they finally seat us, and we sit in the restaurant, and the restaurant's really, like, there's 3 or 4 other tables in the restaurant. I'm like, wow, they're making us wait, and, don't they know who I am? I thought they knew who I was. And so in walks, we're having cocktails, ordering, in walks Jay-Z and Beyonce. And they sit at the table about 4 down from us, and I'm the biggest Jay-Z fan in the world. It's like, it's like, God had just walked into this room. And so you got their security guards with them, and so we're ordering dinner, and dinner's going on, we're laughing, and I'm just sort of like, there's Jay-Z and Beyonce, and myself, and my team's not into it, but I'm into it, and, so I'm just sort of like, kind of staring over there a little bit. And then, dinner's winding up, and we're kind of finishing up, and a female restaurant manager comes over to me, and she says, are you Mr. Fox? And I stand up, and I said, yeah, I'm Mr. Fox, and, I thought she was going to welcome me and say, we're glad to have you, we want to buy you dessert, what an honor to be in our restaurant today. And she goes, can you do me a favor? I said, sure. She goes, can you please stop staring at Jay-Z? We are gonna have to ask you to leave if you continue to stare at Jay-Z. And I'm like, and I didn't know what to say. The conversation wasn't supposed to go like that. So I said, okay. And so I sat down, and my team looks at me, and they didn't really hear what was going on. The lady was, and they said, so what'd she have to say? I said, oh, she just wanted to welcome us to the restaurant and everything like that. So that's a little my unglamorous story of the restaurant business. Thank you, and I'll answer a few questions. Yes, hi. You know a lot of numbers. You're really good with all those numbers.
My question is, how do you decide whether to franchise out? Sorry.
I can shout anyway. How do you decide whether you franchise something out or it's something you want it to be owned by yourself, and how are you keeping that concept pure if you are choosing to franchise it?
Yeah, we have a licensing agreement with our partners in Zinberger on the East Coast, and to be honest, when I first did that one deal, he was building a shopping center in Clifton, New Jersey, of all places, and I'd never been to Clifton, New Jersey, and he said, hey, I want to do one of your stores there. And I said, I want to do Zinberger. And I said to myself, well, Clifton, New Jersey, it doesn't work. It's not going to really hurt our brand here in Arizona. And so we wound up doing the store. They wound up doing a lot more volume because of the density on the East Coast than what we were doing here in Arizona. And it turned out to be a great success. And he's bought the East Coast rights, and there might be more from him as far as trying to buy the whole brand from us. So it's worked out pretty well. But other than that, we really haven't franchised anything. I'm a control freak. And I don't think our organization would be really good at franchising stuff. We need to control it and feel it and taste it. And the culture of our organization is so important. Now, that's not said that we won't ever do that someday. We have a licensing agreement with 3 or 4 of our brands at the airport in Phoenix, if you've seen that. But when we negotiated that deal, that we made sure that we would have 4 of our full-time employees there every single day so we can manage that process at that airport. And we've had opportunities to do other deals at other airports, but it'd be in one-off like in Pittsburgh, and we don't really have a team to do that, so we've turned that down. And so I don't know if franchises, if we're good at that, if our organization would ever be good at that. Yep.
Hi, Sam. David Drain here with Retail Customer Experience. We also publish fastcasual.com. So my question is about the fast casual space. As we heard earlier from MasterCard, the growth in that space and with your new concept. Is that, do you see yourself placing more emphasis or with new concepts or rolling out more fast casual concepts versus the high-end concepts that you have?
Yeah, once again, we don't really think about what's next. It sort of has to happen organically for us. We were in the sauce brand, fast casual pizza, for over a dozen years, and we learned a lot from that. And so it was a natural evolution for us. What we learned at True Food to grow with Flower Child, and we only have one, and like I said, we're growing some more, and hopefully it's successful. We think it's going to be really, really successful. We're really proud of Flower Child. So, we probably will wind up doing some more in that space. It's really, it's a fine line because, we're full-service restaurant guys, and it took me a long time because we had to dummy down at Sauce how we run our business to figure out how to be in the fast casual business. It's a different model, and you have to really understand everything that's going on in your store at a really higher level. There's no room for error in fast casual, and there's not a lot of alcohol sales, and so things like that. So you have to be really, really in tune with your branding. You really have to make sure you know what's going on. So as we learn more from Flower Child, what we've learned at Sauce, I see probably the future that we'll probably do. I think it's a great trend. We use it all the time as a family, my wife and my kids. Obviously there's a lot of great fast casual brands. There's so many different fast casual. Some of the quick service guys are trying to pretend to be fast casual, and some of the full service guys are trying to dummy down. And so it's, you see people dumbing up and dumbing down, and you're just sort of trying to figure all that out. And, obviously, Chipotle's a great success story, and ours is a little more, we almost categorize ourselves as sort of better fast casual a little bit. So, our check average tends to be a little bit higher, but we're using all organic, all, local produce, and it's almost acts like a full-service restaurant. We made it hard on ourselves to run a small fast casual restaurant, but we'll learn as we grow, and we'll sort of, as we scale it, we'll figure it out a little bit different. But I think the fast casual trend is here to stay. I think, as we all talked about earlier, time is the biggest commodity that everyone is trying to figure out. I think you can get value in there. A lot of times, we talk about, should we have a tip line? Should we not have a tip line on the check? To think about it, fast casual, you're not tipping, so is that 15, 20, 25% savings right off the check? Some fast casual restaurants you do tip. So there's a lot of ways to really look at how you grow and run that business.
Yes, I'm Leila Catan with El Imparcial newspaper, and I am one of your 17 years customer at the Wildflower. I have a question. How much concerned are you about the noise in the restaurant ambience?
Sure, we get that question a lot. That's a big, it's a big issue because, Andy, who's my partner in True Food, Dr. Weil, he always complains about how loud the restaurant is at True Food. And we've done a lot of things to try to mitigate some of the sound and things like that. But, if you're in a room and it's 4,000 feet and you have 125 seats and you have 125 people sitting in that room, and then you have an open kitchen, which we like to do, it adds a lot of noise. So it is a lively, can be a noisy experience. Personally, I like the energy of that, and I like to convey that energy to the guests walking into the restaurant. I'm starting to lose my hearing a little bit myself. So I am sort of gravitating towards some quieter restaurants. So what we've done over the last year, though, we've talked a lot about, maybe 2 years now, we've talked a lot about sound and how the sound gets reflected. We have our first culinary dropout. We have our first restaurant that has a glassed-in kitchen that we just opened up 6 months ago, and we're really excited about the way it feels and the energy. We didn't lose any of that in the dining room, so we're going to do a couple glass-in kitchens, and I think that's something that we continue to look at. But we do like a little energy in the room, but we are trying to sort of put that into compartments so you can still have a conversation and still get that sort of energy for that room. And that's tricky when it goes into the design, but it's something we talk about all the time. Thank you for your business as well. Yeah, one more question.
Sam, I think I'm on. All the way over here, to your right. Congratulations on the growth and expansion. I think
I'm sorry, what?
Congratulations on all the expansion and growth and the geographic coverage. So I want to ask you about something I kind of call the retail paradox of scale,
okay,
which says that the bigger you get, the further away you get from your customer.
Yeah.
So do you have any insights or tips that you're trying to apply now to ensure that doesn't elude you as you continue to grow?
Yeah, we talk about it. That was, as we grew our organization from 1 to 2 to 3 stores, and I was so involved, how can I be in every store at every time? And so we talked about it all the time. And, we always used to talk about the guest experience in our restaurants and how great the guests were, and we were all there for the guests, and it was always guests first, and we still have that mentality today. But about 8 or 9 years ago, as we continue to grow, one of the things that I learned is now we have to have the same experience for our employees. And so it's really the people that are working in the restaurant that you're having the experience with. I mean, I can design the restaurant and I can put all the great food in there if it's executed properly, but you're really having an interaction with people in the restaurant and they're creating that experience for you. And so how we, as I mentioned, we have our office, we're in our stores every single day. We have, the last 2 years, every single new manager that comes on board, and we're hiring about 25 managers a month right now. We bring them in for a 3-day sort of little class every month, and it's a lot of work for our organization to do that because every senior leadership has to visit with them. We teach a class called Culture of Hospitality. I spend time with them. They get to meet everybody. They have lunch and dinner with the 80 people that are working in the office. Can you imagine running a busy shift in your restaurant, and it's 12 o'clock on a Friday, and some girl from the office calls you up and says, I'm missing this invoice, and blah, 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 and you're just taking you away from what you want to do. So we feel like we're trying to connect everybody and put names to faces and things like that. So, I think that we're very, very important to get everyone the culture and the onboarding experience. It starts with that, and then it's continuing to train. But then I think the most important thing that we do is sort of living it every single day, understanding why we're there, why we have our businesses, why we have our jobs, why people are choosing to spend money with us. And so as we do that, and we don't ever forget about that, that really helps us stay connected to who we are and to our guests. So thank you, everyone.